Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Shri Radha Madhava ki Jai. Das Fenster auf oder das Haus? Ist zu, oder? Hare Krishna. We continue from yesterday. I was speaking about people who influenced people, which are devotees, who influenced positively my spiritual life. And I spoke so many things. Anybody remembers anything? That would be nice. But I spoke mostly about His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and how much he has influenced mine and so many other people's lives, and his contribution and his amazing personality. And today I will speak about some other devotees, disciples of Srila Prabhupada and the grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada, who actually influenced my life. And how did I speak yesterday? The influence in life means something what I learned from them, or I saw them, or I read about them. And this particular point carries me to even today. After 35 years in Krishna consciousness, I still think about these things. And particularly, I made a cliffhanger yesterday. Anybody remembers who was the protagonist of a cliffhanger? Nobody remembers. Rohini Sutta Prabhu, yes. We just visited Rohini Sutta Prabhu some three years ago. Where were we? In Switzerland. And we went to his apartment and I spoke to him, and he's a legend actually of book distribution. And for me, there was this one sentence what he said actually changed my life forever. And this was the first time I came to the temple. It was 1991 in Belgrade at that time. The temple was very large. It had maybe 70 devotees, and I was like a brand nobody, long hair. And Prabhu came, he was visiting the temple, and he gave a lecture, and I don't remember anything what he said in the lecture, but I remember one thing what he said. And this I will tell you later on when we read the verse of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So this is Canto 3, chapter 25, verse 25. Kannst du das Fenster zumachen? Ist das okay, oder? I know it's German, but still. So this is the verse 3:25-25. Sata prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kataha tajoshana dashvyapavarga vartmani Shradaratir bhaktir anukramishyati Satam prasangan mama virya samvido Bhavanti hrit karna rasayana kataha Tajjoshana dashvapavarga vartmani Shradaratir bhaktir anukramishyati Noch jemand? Ladies? Noch jemand? Satam of pure devotees, prasangat through the association, mama, my, virya, wonderful activities, samvidaha, by discussion of. Shri Nrsimhadev ki jai. This is mostly Prahlad Maharaj, probably. Wo sind wir? By discussion of Bhavanti, become, Hrit, to the heart, Karna, to the ear, Rasa ayanaha, pleasing, Katha, the stories, Tat, of that, Joshanat, by cultivation, Ashu, quickly, Apavarga, of liberation, Vartmani, on the path, Shraddha, firm faith, Rati, attraction, Bhakti, devotion, Anukramishyati, will follow in order. I chose this verse because this verse exemplifies what we were speaking yesterday, what we will speak today. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. So just one more confirmation from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, because we ultimately take Srimad-Bhagavatam as the ultimate pramana, ultimate beweis, evidence. Ultimate evidence that this is the truth, the absolute truth. And here Srimad-Bhagavatam describes the association of pure devotees, meaning when we associate with pure devotees and discuss the pastimes and activities of Krishna, this is very pleasing to the ear and to the heart. Meaning through the ear, this knowledge, transcendent knowledge, enters our heart and we become somehow pleased, interestingly enough, by hearing. So many people read books, thousands of books, book clubs everywhere. People read like 150 books a year. But, does this sound vibration produce anything in their heart regarding the spiritual elevation? Not so much. Feel like maybe a little bit. Some idea, general idea can help. But this is pleasing to the ear and the heart because this is concerning the soul itself. Is drinking the nectar. Pibatam rasam Srimad-Bhagavatam. The soul is drinking the nectar. And by doing such, the development, Prabhupada used this word cultivating, like cultivating field, cultivating spiritual knowledge, means not only hearing, but cultivating. Like you go on a field and you don't just look at the field and you say, okay, next year we will have potatoes. You'll actually have to do something. You have to plow the field, I don't know if the experts here, but how to plant, when, which time, to protect for the bugs, bhakti lata and so on and so forth. And then next year you expect potatoes, and then you have to harvest the potatoes. It's not like potatoes do not harvest themselves. We have here once a year action in Simhachalam. We all go, and I don't know this year, but usually, traditionally, whole temple devotees go out and pick the potatoes, So this is the cultivation. So cultivation of the, Prabhupada says here, or translated, gradual advanced, but by cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced. So gradually, Krishna consciousness is, Prabhupada says many times, gradual process. Of course, it doesn't mean that gradually, I'll do maybe next 75 lives. It's gradual. Prabhupada says, no, make it this in one lifetime. And this is, today I want to speak about this a little bit. As I spoke yesterday, about exaggeration. I like this very much when I was a very young devotee. Exaggeration. And Prabhupada writes, revolution, we will preach all over the world. And then so much so, the Srila Prabhupada wrote this, my favorite letter of all times of Srila Prabhupada, is the letter to members of the members of the League of the Devotees. League of the Devotees at that time, Srila Prabhupada was basically himself. There was 1950, I think 6 or something like this. And Prabhupada was very much, he had this vision. If you read the prospectus, I read a little bit yesterday from the prospectus of the League of the Devotees. Prabhupada already had a whole vision about the whole world. He was sitting there in Jamsi all alone with Acharya Prabhakar, his first disciple, who actually said, I was not so serious about it. He said, I took initiation, but I was not really serious about it. You can see the memories of Prabhupada and even the early film called The Hare Krishna World, I think, made in 1970s. When we traveled in India, we were projecting this film everywhere. We go to villages, and we project the film on the building, and everybody's whole village comes and watches. Wow, Hare Krishna World. And this Acharya Prabhakar was there, and he said, he was initiated Prabhupada. He said, but I didn't take it too seriously. So this was the Prabhupada's League of the Devotees. So he wrote this amazing letter, which is, I will read this little bit, part of it. He says, in the beginning he said, on the order of the Supreme, of the Divine, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, I beg to inform you that this is now high time to revive the divine consciousness of mankind, the people in general, modern leaders, philosophers, and religionists, considering the deteriorated world situation in every respect. Such a doomsday introduction. The whole world should listen. You are going down. This is Prabhupada's whole leaders, philosophers, religionists. So Prabhupada says here, anyways, he spoke, preaching a little bit, what is the divine dormant Krishna consciousness. And then he said, the only remedy is to revive the dormant divine consciousness by dissemination of spiritual knowledge. Dissemination means distribution. But distribution of spiritual knowledge, this is the only way. Harinama eva kevalam. There's no other way but chanting the Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada said there's no other way to the people but distribute this knowledge. Dissemination, spiritual knowledge. Now, Prabhupada at that time did not write any books. He had a few magazines, because, Back to Guardian magazine. This is basically 2 paper, or, not many, later on became bigger, but in the beginning was 1 paper or 2 papers. And Prabhupada tried to distribute these magazines to the people, at that time in Delhi. There was great difficulty to print, because at that time, I did not live at that time, but Prabhupada was speaking how there was very difficult to acquire paper. So you have to request paper from the government, and you get permission from the government. And here's the one article, thanks to the government of India for giving me paper. It's not easy to print. Nowadays, we take so many things for granted. Prabhupada, you offer base, Hare Krishna, we take many things for granted, Hare Krishna mantra for granted. Prasadam, we take very much for granted. I gave 2 lectures series in Munich about prasadam. How actually important prasadam, how difficult it is to eat prasadam, not easy. How many times you go and we distribute, Harinam, we distribute prasadam, and people, like you're giving them some demoniac thing, no. And some other people like, oh, this is wonderful, can I take more? So it's not easy to eat prasadam. It's not easy to hear the holy name. We have a greatly blessed to actually could accept these wonderful gifts. So Srila Prabhupada was writing back to Garden magazine at that time, more or less successful distribution, and he said, Back to Godhead is devoted to this mission for all-around human welfare work with wider outlook, and for this there's many appreciations by educated circle, meaning many educated people appreciate what I'm doing. Again, we know Prabhupada was, there's a picture of Prabhupada giving a book to what is his name? Bahadur Shastri, Lal Bahadur Shastri. He was the president of India at that time. Imagine, can you imagine nowadays you go to, I don't know who is the president here, but Angela Merkel to give a Bhagavad Gita, maybe she would take it, I don't know. We see that, Srila, what is his name? Modi gave the Putin Bhagavad Gita. So on a higher level, it's possible. But for us, to me, to go to someone knocking the door, excuse me, would you like to check it out? Gandhi's favorite, as one devotee in Philadelphia, when I was distributing books, he was teaching me how to distribute books in the airport. And he said, there's no really formula. You just have to shock them. I said, what? So he was approach people. He would say, Guru Puja Mangalarati. And people like, what? He said, Gopis from Vrindavan. This is how he would stop businessmen, suitcase. And he would say, Guru Puja Mangalarati. People would stop, what? And he said, check it out, man. Gandhi's favorite. And he gave them Bhagavad Gita. And he could do like 100 Bhagavad Gitas a day. But he struggled, he told me, he struggled 5-6 years all alone, every day in Sankirtan. He said he did 3 books, 5 books. And then one day broke the treasure, the door of the love of God had opened, and he could people just buy with tears in their eyes. Can I buy more? Can I buy more? So he could distribute so many books with this mantra. Check it out, Gandhi's favorite. So I tried it, and it worked. Because I follow the Guru Parampara, I follow his advice. I also had a chance to distribute books with that time Sarvatma Prabhu. I don't know, he's now Kirtaniya. Is he still Kirtaniya? Sarvatma Prabhu in San Francisco. I will never repeat this mantra ever again. He was very, sometimes offensive to the people, and people liked it. And I tried to imitate, it was not good. Did not go so well. So some people will follow, some people will follow so less. But Gandhi's favorite is a very good mantra for you. Bhagavad Gita, check it out, man. And anyways, to come back, and Prabhupada would distribute this back to God in magazines. And he said, the whole educated circles appreciate my work. Then he said, it is now decided by him that copies of the above paper will be posted to the leading men of the world in the following scale. This is sorry, but maybe repetitive, but it's a nectar for me, so I will repeat it because I'm giving a lecture. Number 1, they will send this letter, send them back to God magazine to all the leading people in following countries. Afghanistan, 1,000. 2, America, 10,000. Argentina, 500 only. Belgium, 500. Brazil, 500. Burma, 1,000. Canada, 500. Chile, 500. China, 10,000. Czechoslovakia, anybody from Czech here? 500 only. Denmark, 500. Egypt, 1,000. Whoa, Egypt. Ethiopia, 500. Germany, 5,000. So. Greece, 1,000. Indonesia, Iran, 500. I will skip these normal countries. I will just read this proper. Iraq, 500, of course. Italy, 1,000 only. Japan, Laos, Poland, 500. Anybody from Poland? Saudi Arabia, 500. USSR, 10,000. Yugoslavia, 500. Switzerland, 500. Prabhupada didn't have high hopes. Cambodia, 500. Ghana, 500. Malaya 500, Pakistan 1,000, and United Kingdom 10,000. And then Prabhupada said, it is expected that all intelligent men will join this spiritual movement for a total reformation. This is amazing to me. This was like 1950s, Prabhupada had nothing, and he would think, I want to send this to the leading men of these countries. Ghana, 500, you know. This enthusiasm of Prabhupada is just amazing. It's just amazing to me. And how, you know, now we consider, you know, with a little bit, how do you say it, with sympathy, we're looking in the back, how this is nice. But actually, Prabhupada was struggling at that time. She was nobody. When you are somebody, you know, it's easy. But when you're nobody, no money, no friends, nobody cares. He was living in this transcendental, but this dilapidated room in Radha Damodar temple, peeling the walls off. We saw the pictures when Prabhupada went back. Everything was falling apart, and his life fell apart, and his movement of his Guru Maharaj fell apart also, Gaudiya Math. And he had nothing, and he was thinking, I want to Ghana 500, I want to Germany. You know, amazing. It's just amazing how Prabhupada... And when you read, please read the prospectus of the League of the Devotees. How Prabhupada was very much clear what kind of message he wants to give to the whole world. So this is amazing thing. And in the end, yesterday I spoke about loyalty. How Prabhupada was very, when they asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, besides you, are there any other pure devotees in this movement? Prabhupada answered, how many members of ISKCON today we have? And they had 75. You know, this was, I don't know what year was this, Prabhu? You may know. Anyways, Prabhupada says 70. We had 75 pure devotees. Sorry?
75 would be.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah. Early days. And 75 devotees, total of ISKCON devotees, 75. And Prabhupada says, all these 75, they're pure devotees. So Prabhupada was very much like his devotees, and then he even did not want to enter. There was also this famous situation when Prabhupada went to Puri, Jagannath Puri, and his devotees, disciples were not allowed to enter the temple, and Prabhupada says, if my disciples cannot enter, I will never come back to Puri. I will come back when they allow us to go. So this was an amazing thing. Prabhupada could say, I'm the guru, I can go, but Prabhupada was very much loyal to his devotees, so we should be very loyal to Prabhupada and stick with Prabhupada to the end. And this was the end of yesterday's lecture, just to remind you. And today I want to speak about some amazing personalities which influences me. I did not meet them personally. I met personally some of them, like Tamal Krishna Goswami. You know, I had some this and that situation, but I very much his persona, how much he has done for the Prabhupada's movement, very much influenced my spiritual life. The way I look at Krishna consciousness, particularly from this managerial side, because mostly my Krishna consciousness, I was some kind of manager of this and that, either Bhakta leader, Sankirtan leader, or temple president, and so on and so forth. Even shortly, I was unofficial regional secretary somewhere. I don't want to tell you where. But, No, it's not going to tell you. So, so Prabhupada, one thing was very interesting to me, what Prabhupada, continue just a little bit from Prabhupada. The Prabhupada was actually, you know, he did not say, oh, we should all go to India. We should all, now this, also while speaking, I'll also a little bit try to observe the current situation in our society and how Prabhupada actually taught a little bit different. Like India was not all in all at that time for Prabhupada. West was all in all for Prabhupada at that time. Nowadays, of course, the movement in India has blossomed to the max. And we know, I just recently heard this Narasimha Rao, the famous astrologer, who said the next 10 years India will boom economically. It will become one of the biggest economic powers in the world. So India will just keep on growing. But we here in the West, with our 75 devotees in 7 temples, or 75 temples, we have to consider some Prabhupada's. What Prabhupada says here, interestingly to me, is the Prabhupada wrote a letter to Guru Kripa Swami at that time, who was in Japan. We know he collected so much money. Jaya Shri Praladni Simadeva Kicha. I have to, for a moment, think about the deities. Yeah, zu schnell? Okay. To Übersetzer. So, Prabhupada would, Guru Kripa Maharaj at that time would collect so much money, and we know that from the memories, he would give like 100,000 euros. He would come to Prabhupada and he gave him 100,000 euros, dollars at that time, to build Bombay temple or Vrindavan temple. And Prabhupada is in the beginning, he was thankful, and after some time, Prabhupada would come, put a bill, I deposited on your account 100,000, and Prabhupada would just put it aside and keep on talking to somebody else. And you would think, oh, he's not thankful to me, But actually, you should be thankful to him because he allows you to actually do service for him. We know Mangalarti songs, Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana. We actually serving the deities through the spiritual master. We actually serving spiritual master who actually is serving the deities. This is the attitude of a devotee. Anyway, so Prabhupada wrote to Guru Kripa Maharaj at that time, I think in Japan, there are some best architectural constructions in the world. He was very, and some best firms, architectural firms. And he says, if it's possible, find out the best architect in Japan, describe generally our Mayapur temple project, and for more details, write to Surabhi Swami and so on. Prabhupada wanted Guru Kripa to find best architects in Japan to build a temple in Mayapur. So this is, Prabhupada wanted to use what is best for Krishna. As I spoke yesterday about Raghava Pandit's coconut, he wanted to use the best. And then this is even more shocking to me later. 1974 to Rupanuga. What do you think of exporting nice United States cows you have here from New Vrindavan to India? So Prabhupada wanted to import American cows to India. Haribol. This was shocking for me to read because usually we see the cows nowadays in India. This, in Vasu Ghosh Prabhu in Gujarat has these cows. I don't know how do you call it with this big hump. And these are like original. He said these are original Vedic cows and so on. But Prabhupada wanted to import fat American cows to India, because there's more milk. Prabhupada was very practical. This is also I spoke yesterday. Prabhupada was very practical. This influenced me so much that, for example, we travel. I joined, in Vrindavan, or rejoined, you can say, and we travel all over India, and then we traveled sometimes, in the bus, like all the time, and the wife of Prithu Prabhu's wife, Rambaru Devidasi, she would tell me, sometimes we couldn't wash our laundry, we had only one bucket. And she said, Prabhupada said, if you just rinse into the water, is as good as been washed. So she said, Prabhupada was very practical. So this thing stayed to me even nowadays. Prabhupada, sometimes we do very strictly, but sometimes when it's not possible, you just do it. You just have to do it. And here Prabhupada was very practical. Who gives the best milk? Let's take it. He didn't say, okay, this is Vedic cow, this is not Vedic cow. Who gives the most milk for Krishna? Okay, so this is, again, finished with Prabhupada's continuation from yesterday. Today, first, as a cliffhanger, Rohini Sutta Prabhu, he said on this lecture very amazing sentence. And this sentence was, he gave the whole lecture, and this sentence he said, no material circumstances can stop your Krishna consciousness. No material circumstances. And somehow this entered my heart. Even nowadays I remember. Because we can have so many difficulties, Nowadays, people are going, I saw recently, there's some video now recently they came out complaining, difficulties with management and this and the GBC, and our personal difficulties to keep up the principles, our personal difficulties to stay interested in Krishna consciousness. It's not easy. To read Bhagavad Gita every day is not easy. You think again, these words, expansions of Krishna or part of the parcel of Krishna. I think, oh my God, again Arjuna, again Prabhupada. So therefore we try to read some stories, nectar, like, Leela. We have so many now. Bhanu Swami printed 700 books of different Leelas, Goswami books, and you read, Leela. I cannot read Srimad-Bhagavatam. It's all the same words Prabhupada's repeating. You are not the body. You are, So to keep interest is not easy continuously after many, many years. You can keep interest 2 years or 3 years. We have seen so many devotees. They come as a shooting stars, become big sankirtan, big preaching, and then just disappear. A Swiss disciple, what is his name? I don't want to hear his name, but He was here, the huge star, book distribution. And 3 years later, not. So to keep interest, it's not easy. To keep enthusiasm is really not easy. Therefore, when you see senior devotees, Prabhupada disciples, still Mangal Artik, still Guru Puja, you think like, wow, this is amazing. We have, I don't know, Prabhu, when did you join? 1970. Okay, so this is the time I was born. Bhakti Bhushana Swami got initiated by Prabhupada 1 week before I was born, 1969. Still Mangal Artik, still 16 rounds. Nothing, he's not flying, he's a regular devotee, just happened to be guru and sannyasi and advanced devotee, but he's doing the same thing. Mangal Artik, he's listening to the lecture. When somebody gives a lecture, he sits there. Amazing, amazing. So this is something which, which we as young devotees should aspire for. See these senior devotees, you think like, wow, he's still doing it. He's still doing it. So this is the one. So Rohini Sutta Prabhu, no material circumstances can stop your Krishna consciousness. There's so many obstacles that I think 2 books written on the obstacles in Krishna consciousness. One by Satsarup Maharaj. A second one is called More Obstacles in Krishna Consciousness by, what is his name? He left the body? Purnachandra Maharaj, yes. More Obstacles in Krishna Consciousness. He got a little more details, and a little more tricky things. But the point is there's so many obstacles. But we, by the grace of Krishna, by the grace of Prabhupada, we can overcome all of them. Prabhupada says, letter to Krishnadas, 1972. I don't know if you noticed, but I like reading Prabhupada's letters. You mentioned that your pathway has become filled with stumbling blocks. So many stumbling blocks. I'm sorry? Yes. But there are no stumbling blocks. I can kick out all those stumbling blocks immediately. Prabhupada, you like this word, kick out. I will kick out these stumbling blocks. There's no stumbling block. But provided you accept my guidance. With one stroke of kick, I can kick out all the stumbling blocks. So this faith we have to have. By Prabhupada's grace, by Krishna's grace, all the stumbling blocks can be just kicked away. Clink. Kick is like with the foot, not even respectfully, just kicking. So this is very important for me, for many years, and even now. This difficulty, but still. Why? Because we will all die. Prabhupada said, what is the use of this and that? We will actually all die very soon. And we see now, especially, I caught myself a few years ago. There was somewhere obituary of devotees, and I was reading. And I remember my grandmother, she was reading obituaries. You know obituary? Wenn jemand tot ist in Zeiten. Todesanzeige. So I would read Todesanzeige, obituaries. Oh, this Prabhu died. I knew him. Now Tapas Prabhu died. That was just a few years ago when I invited Tapas here. Oh my God, Tapas Prabhu died. So on. So we are dying. Devotees actually are dying. You may believe it or not. Maharaj Yudhishthir said, what is the most amazing thing is it in Mahabharata? The most amazing thing is we see everybody, every day people are dying, but we think, I will somehow never die. Or, later on, not now. But people are dying. I'm actually 56 years old now, And George Harrison, the famous Beatle, he died when he was 54. I think, oh my God, he died 2 years when I was 50. So people are dying. So we should always think, this is the goal of life. The goal of life is to, at the time of our death, sit there and say, Hare Krishna. And that's it. This is the goal of life. So to prepare for this one moment, we have to do all kinds of amazing things throughout our lives. Get purification, get knowledge, get transcendental knowledge, get the mercy of Krishna, and then surrounded with devotees. Even if not, we can think of Krishna and die. This is the ultimate Ante-Narayana Smriti. At the end, we should remember Narayan. So Rohini Sutta Prabhu said also, in Mayapur, that was probably 93, 92, 93, he gave this amazing Sankirtan seminars, which I attended very religiously. Those Sankirtan seminars were like, the devotees were like warriors, like these Spartans, whoa, And all these big heroes would give lectures to devotees who distribute 700 books a day, and who would say, what is 100 books is nothing. Rohini Sutta Prabhu would say, if one distribute, forgive me that I imitate a little bit of a Swiss English accent, if one distributes 100 books a day, and then next day he is sick, nobody's impressed. Whoa, so heavy people, And then, and then he said this sentence also, which I always remember, even now, in this lecture. He said, again, Swiss, we don't want to die in bed, passing stool and urine. We want to die on the street. Wow. We don't want to pass stool and urine at the end of our life, in bed. And confirmed to this, there was at that time Harikesh Swami, nowadays, I don't know. But he said this very famous sentence, and it was a famous lecture. We don't go historically, the negative side of it. I just speak the positive, inspirational side. He said, if you die on Sankirtan, we will build you samadhi on the street. This was to me like, wow, he will build a samadhi for me. I am going. So I would go in the rain, in Seattle with the 70 books in my backpack, 20 books in my hands. The back was killing me. I said, no, I will die, I don't care. I'll build samadhi right there. Fourth and Pike is the square I was distributing all the time. He will build a samadhi. I don't want to die passed in stool and urine, So heavy. And then another one, Rohini Sutta Prabhu, again, but this is, please do not take offense, particularly devotees who live here. He says, we should do Sankirtan forever. He says, not that one day we give up Sankirtan and go to the farm and we become a cook. And all the brahmacharis, laughing, Who wants to go to the farm and become a cook? This is like the worst thing that can happen to Sankirtan devotee. Of course, we know this was exaggeration. The farm cooks are very nice. Paramahamsa Gora I very much appreciate. Veni also cooks very nicely. And also, I also live in this farm for some years. So farm is nice. We actually want farms. We want farm devotees. But this is just a encouragement, encouragement. We don't want to go we want to die on the street, this is, and we have some devotees who actually do still go out. I don't know now, but there's in Denver, Mother Nidra. She's going out since, ever. She's a proper disciple, and she's doing like 10 books, 12 books, but she's going every single day. Brigupati joined, distributing books. Some amazing devotees. We have this Ram Bhakta Prabhu, a Russian devotee, who joined and distributed books. He joined in the Sankirtan van. Next day he went to Sankirtan van, distributing books. And then he distributed many, many years. And after this he told him, now you should go Harinam. So he's doing full-time Harinam. So basically he's on the road since he joined, 1991. He's never lived in temples. He goes to temples, but he's just constantly touring, preaching, traveling. This is like amazing devotees to me. So for these devotees, we have to somehow find a good spot to build them samadhi, to get permission from the government, from the city. So Prabhupada says here, you may be very strong and stout in your health and go on exercising on the beach daily, but you can die at any moment. There is no guarantee. So this is one thing I want to poke a little bit about health today. That health is very important, yes, Prabhupada says in many letters, but ultimately, who cares about health? You know, what is your health? Prabhupada says, you can be stout and strong, but you can die at any moment. There is no guarantee. He says, because the purpose is that Prabhupada used, everybody wants this akuto bhayam. Akuto bhayam means free from anxieties, free from bodily inconveniences, mental anxieties, social. Everybody wants to have a nice social position. Everybody wants to be healthy and everything to be nice. But this doesn't work like this in the material world. So we have to just push through the myriad of barriers and go and have a seal, the goal of Krishna consciousness, to achieve Krishna in this lifetime. One life, Prabhupada says, give this one life to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One life. So we have so many lives. I had just devotee recently. A friend of mine told me he did the past life regression. And it's very amazing. He's, I don't know, should I say, but I hope he will not be offended. He told me he was, by regression, he actually was initiated by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But he made some not good things after, and he has to be reborn. Why would you want to be reborn? Do it right now. And then in the end of life, Hari Bol, Arrivederci, I will, goodbye material world. Only if Krishna send me, even then I would consider, but we had enough of this material world. So, coming back to next personality, also heavy personalities. I like these heavy personalities for some reason. I know maybe some devotees may have, resentment from the interaction with them. Again, I have some interaction with some of them, and in a not a pleasant way. But nevertheless, I appreciate these devotees dedicated to Prabhupada, gave their lives, and they amazing service. Actually, to do pioneering work is an amazing service. It's an amazing service. I happen to have a little experience, and this is amazing service. To be sent to a place, there's nothing, you have no money, and your guru said, go there and open a center. And you have, we were sleeping in the bushes, we were sleeping in the hippies' houses, sharing the house with the ganja plants. That was true, actually. And because we wanted to start a movement. We wanted to open a center. Slowly you meet some people. We walked in devotees like this. You have no money, you have nothing to eat. And then Krishna, you can see how Krishna works. And always somebody somehow arranges, we have always some good situation. Once we were completely broke. We walked on the street, there was two of us, me and Bhakta Greg. And then we walked, and then one guy said, excuse me, are you monks? And I said, yeah. Do you accept donations? I said, well, yes, So I gave so he gave me donation, and he said, where do you live? I said, well, we live right now in the bushes, in the park. And he said, oh, would you like to come to my house? I said, yeah, we do programs. Would you like to have a program in my house? I said, we do Sunday feasts. I can organize Sunday feasts in my house. So then he invited maybe 20, 30 people to Sunday feast. I gave a Sunday feast lecture, I cooked, he bought boga and everything. And after this, people find out, and he said, would you like to have a Sunday feast in my house? So we had a list of people who want to have a Sunday feast in their houses. So Krishna arranges for everything. And then in the end, there was a lady who rented a house for us, for a temple, and so on and so forth. And we just basically hanging around. So Krishna arranges everything. If you have, and what to speak of this, this is again some small experience. Imagine, Prabhupada sends Brahmananda to Africa, or I spoke yesterday, Kshudi Prabhu, who lives in Vrindavan. He was 17 years old, who was sent to South Africa to start a movement. And he was just a child, sent to South Africa to risk his life. At that time, there was a dangerous, what is the secret police were arresting people if you do something weird. So he had to hide from the secret police and so many things. Trivikram Maharaj sent to Japan, and so many devotees did amazing things. The famous story with Brahmananda and the Garga Muni Prabhus, I think they were Swamis at the time. Prabhupada sent them to Pakistan to preach. And of course, they immediately got arrested because they were in devotees. I was once foolishly in Delhi, I was in Delhi, and I thought, let's preach to the Muslims. We were in Safran. So I went to the biggest Muslim university. I don't know, you probably know what's the name of this. 50,000, it's like a mini town. And we went in the middle of it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And there was like 5 minutes. We distributed even 3 books very quickly to the ladies. Ladies immediately came, oh, who are you? So we took this opportunity to distribute books. And immediately the guys came, he said, leave immediately before we hurt you. I said, oh my God, So, okay. But they were nice enough. They actually got a rickshaw for us. At that time, bicycle rickshaws, nowadays, electric. And so we just left, and they were like following us, like maybe 50 of them. I said, oh my God, So imagine Garga Muni and Brahmananda went to Pakistan and got arrested. And the next day, the newspaper, Pakistani newspaper, 2 Hare Krishna devotees killed in Pakistan. And Prabhupada would read this, and he was very sorry. His 2 favorite devotees, killed in Pakistan, and he sent them to Pakistan. So, but what happened? There was some misunderstanding, fake news, Lüge Presse. And so they released, and they went to India, and they met Prabhupada. Prabhupada was so pleased. He embraced them, and he said, for this endeavor, I guarantee you back to Godhead. So when some years ago, we were visiting Brahmananda Prabhu and Garga Muni Prabhu at that time they were staying in a hotel. There are some rooms. And they said, I don't care, Prabhupada says, I believe it. He said, people say, oh, you're not doing much. I don't care. Prabhupada said it, and he is. And I was thinking, wow, such a fate, He doesn't care what happens because Prabhupada promised, and he believed in Prabhupada's promise. So we should believe in Prabhupada's promise. If Prabhupada says chanting 60 rounds, following the regulative principles, and being sincere devotee is enough to bring you back to Godhead, we should believe it. We should believe it. Why would Prabhupada lie? Prabhupada promised. And there's one song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur who says, my dear Lord, addressing Krishna, you said that you will take care of the surrender devotees' duties only to surrender, and Krishna will take care, of devotees' welfare, bringing him back to God or not. My duty is only to surrender. So I surrender unto you, and now whatever happened to me, it's your responsibility. I thought this is so cool. You put blame on Krishna. It's your responsibility. You promised. So Kanteya pratijanahi name bhakti pranashyati. So come back to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Tamal Krishna Maharaj was a great inspiration for me in that sense that he was the first, again, Prabhu he was living at that time there in those areas. But what I could read from, and I was spoken to different devotees, the Tamal Krishna Maharaj was first who could actually organize. He organized the west coast of ISKCON, west coast, and many letters of Prabhupada is this managerial nature. This was very much, I much appreciate somehow this mood and style. And this was, again, carried me for so many years. And Prabhupada, and there was a letter of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, there was a Tamal Krishna Maharaj, Prabhupada was visiting San Francisco, 1968. And and the devotees, devotees gave garlands to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada has as many garlands, and he would take garlands from himself, and he would give it to certain devotees. He would invite Jayananda, the senior devotees, give it to him. President, I think there was Keshava, or later, I don't know, but he gave it to him. And then somebody nudged Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, you. He said, come here, give garland to Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And later on he told him, I appreciate very much the way you organized the Sankirtan party. So this is the next point. What I want to say is Prabhupada was very much appreciative of somebody who do something for him. Some you can say some risk or some anxiety, to take anxiety for Krishna. There's also a very nice story by Guru Kripa Prabhu. At that time, I'm not sure he was Swami, that he said he would analyze. He joined pretty late. I mean, late, not 68. He joined late 70s, and he said I would observe.
We both joined in 1970.
1970. Yeah. Oh, sorry, my fault. Yeah, it's good to have.
We walked in the same day.
Bhakta Greg. Oh no. I'm sorry.
It was 1970.
Okay.
We both went to the Sunday feast, and he stayed. I went home and then came on the next morning with 2 new bhaktas.
Jai. I stand corrected. And then he would say, I would analyze Prabhupada, because he said, I will see who is close to Prabhupada. And he realized the Prabhupada wrote letters or was close to those who did something for him, some project. They took some project. And he thought, I'm going to do this, So he went to South India with Yashodananda Swami, and then start opening centers. They opened a center in South India. And he said, immediately letters starts coming. So this is the 2 examples here of Krishna Maharaj and Guru Kripa Maharaj. I actually, if you do something for Prabhupada or Krishna, it will be recognized. It's not like we do something and Krishna says, oh, you're also there, Prabhupada or Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recognize somebody who takes responsibility for Krishna, who takes some risk for Krishna. Of course, we should not go to Egypt to start a preaching center in Cairo, in the Dhoti. It's not smart. But Prabhupada recognized that this man is not doing something. Prabhupada also, there's a famous conversation when he said, we want to get this recognition from Krishna, this man has done something for me. If pack of asses says he is good, what is that? But if Krishna says he has done something, this is something. Then he gives the example of Jesus. He says, he's preached only a few years, but so many followers. He said, this is what we want, recognition from Krishna. So anyways, next one. Oh, there's so many nectars here. The time is so limited. I would skip this topic called World Sankirtan. I always wanted to have, I was thinking this, as a young devotee, world, buses, I even bought a bus when I was somewhere or other in the late 1999. But for whatever reason, I took over Murari Sevak in Tennessee. It was a long story, and I was thinking there, I'm not a farmer, what am I going to do here? Let me do something wonderful. And I was reading this Tamal Krishna Goswami, Servant of the Servant, and I said, I want to have a Radha Damodar party again. So I bought a bus. I bought a Greyhound bus and converted into a traveling temple, and we traveled maybe 4 years like this. And this was nectar, In America, it's much easier to convince people just hop in the bus and leave a whole life behind. In Germany, it's a little bit difficult. Like we had one boy in Seattle. He was actually student in University of Washington. And then we just convinced him to leave the university, leave the apartment, and join our bus. His parents probably were freaking out. But he joined us, and he was distributing books, and he was preaching for some years. And then later on, I heard he took initiation from... There's a Prabhupada disciple in Hawaii. He became Babaji. I forgot his name. No. Okay. Anyway, so he took initiation from... So at least he was connected to Gaudiya Vaishnava community, and not becomes some anyways. But I will skip this topic, World Sankirtan Party. Which also, World Sankirtan Party is, Prabhupada gave so many letters, and he said, interesting enough, Prabhupada said, the moving Sankirtan program, this is a letter to Rupa Nuga, 1970, I programmed long ago. So Prabhupada was dreaming of moving, traveling Sankirtan. Even when I was in India, he said when they would speaking to his god brothers, I used to say to my god brothers that when I begin preaching, I shall take 2 trucks, one for the Sankirtan party and one for carrying requisites. And I would go village to village throughout the whole world preaching. This was Prabhupada's dream. I actually happened to, some years ago, I was in Kurukshetra. That time they didn't have any temple. I think now they built a temple, ISKCON. But, there was a Bhagavad Gita, Advent, Gopal Krishna Maharaj was giving a speech. So we had a bus to go to Kurukshetra from Vrindavan. And with no accommodation, so they gave us some big hall. And this big hall actually belongs to Gaudiya Math. And the end of this hall was the dolls of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. You remember Prabhupada says Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati used dolls for preaching. So he had all kinds of, preaching. And there was a Panchatattva standing. And it was a very primitive, comparing to our standards. But Bhaktisiddhanta would carry these dolls from village to village. And when people see this doll, he would preach. Look at this, look at this, look at this. So Prabhupada wanted to take the props all over the world, one truck with props, one truck with devotees, and to preach. And this was the Prabhupada's mood. And now just one little, nowadays, little, again, poking the nowadays situation. This is from the book ISKCON in the 1970s, but Satsvarup Maharaj, very wonderful book again. Satsvarup Maharaj wrote a diary, what really happened when he was traveling, how he took sannyas and so on. And he said, the first thing, Prabhupada told him, the first thing is enthusiasm. Do not be dead. You have to work more than me. Anyone who has life, he can preach. Do not be dead. He said later on something about his god brothers, but I will not repeat this. But the point here is, Prabhupada says, enthusiasm is very important. Utsaha. This is even in nectar instruction. First thing, utsaha. Enthusiasm. So, how to develop enthusiasm, this is a question we can talk some other time. But he said, don't be dead. So sometimes when I think I'm not doing anything, I think, man, I'm actually dead. Prabhupada. So, you have to work more than we. And Satsvarup Maharaj said, when he took sannyas, Prabhupada told him, simply touring is not required. By traveling, we have to do something substantial to increase the society. So traveling, giving lectures is nice. I'm guilty of this. But we have to actually leave some trail behind us. Trail means we have to increase the movement. Increase the number of followers. Ananda Krishna, very much concerned about number of followers. Because this is what is Prabhupada's, instruction. Increase the number of followers. So I remember when he started, he had 100 and something subscribers. Now he has over 12,000, or there's more or less 12,000 subscribers. So increasing the number of followers, increasing number of the temples. We have to increase the number of temples, centers, namahatas, and so on. Prabhupada wanted to increase always. Anyways, I'm just speaking theory right now. And Prabhupada wanted to recruit people. And this is the conclusion of my speeches yesterday and today. And maybe we have a vision of Vedasara Prabhu, the vision of Vision Quest. So this is my humble contribution to the Vision Quest, which we spoke already last year. And this is by one person who influenced my life the most. This is Prito Prabhu. He was my spiritual master for many years, until 2004. It is an anomaly. He was my spiritual master, actually. But we're not going to talk about this. But he influenced my life in that sense that he gave one seminar in the 1992, which I will never forget. And this seminar is called Recruit or Perish. Recruit, you know what recruit means? How would you say recruit auf Deutsch? Rekrutieren or Oder verschwinde oder sterbe. Die, Recruit or die. So this was such an influence, and I listened to this seminar, 235 times, and I've tried to find it recently, and I asked him, and he doesn't know anywhere where it is, and I asked some ex-disciples, nobody knows, and this seminar was only one tape, at that time tapes, I don't know, for the young people, this is a plastic which you put in some machine and it produces sound. And there was a one tape of this lecture, Recruit or Perish. This is such a most practical, thing you can have. And this, he said, the beginning was, book distribution is Prabhupada's most dear thing to Prabhupada. But how many books can you distribute alone? It is better to actually make devotees who can distribute many books. So I followed this, I distributed some books in my, devotional life. But I always think it's for me better to actually, I don't want to say make devotees, this is a kind of patriarchal, how do you call it nowadays, This is a kind of puffed up way, but facilitate people to join the Hare Krishna movement and inspire them to go book distribution, because you not only distribute books, but you actually help them develop in Krishna consciousness. And for that, I have to tell a little story, funny story, because it has to be a funny story. I was once in Portland, Oregon. We started a brand new temple. We started a brand new temple in Eugene, Oregon. There was the time. Just a building, and some hippie kids joined, and they were barefoot, and it was funny. But so I had 12 brand new bhaktas. So I was thinking, what should I do with brand new bhaktas? So let's show them book distribution. So I brought them to Portland, to the Pioneer Square. This is downtown Portland, and there was a little wall like this high, maybe brick wall. So I had all the bhaktas sit on the brick wall, and I said, "Now I will show you how to distribute books." They're all like watching, And then I said, "You see this book, and you see these people walking towards me, and I will choose one which I think will be the most favorable to take a book." They all. And I said, "You see this man?" He was pushing the stroller with the child, a man. "You see this man?" And he's listening. He can hear me. "You see this man? He looks the most favorable." And the man was like, he was not sure what's going. Big people are sitting on the wall, and this guy is telling them something. And I said, "Excuse me, sir." And I gave him the book, and I said, "You see, now and now I offer him a book in his hand." And the guy still he started laughing. He did not know what's going on here. And I said, this is we are the monks. We are coming from the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, from the temple in Eugene. We're distributing these wonderful books on spiritual knowledge. Would you like to take one? You look like a spiritually minded person. And he said, "Yeah, I like, Portland. Portland is like a cool place. Yeah, I like these books." I said, "Yeah, just to take it. We don't sell them. We're asking for donation. People give donation to cover the printing cost, and the rest is we live also like this." And the guy said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." And when he took a book, all the bhaktas applauding. And the guy was like waving, he didn't know what to expect. So this was their lesson, how to distribute books. So then I said, "Okay, now you, Bhakta John, stand there." And I'm standing behind him, one step behind Bhakta John. And I said, "You see this woman now in pink? Approach her." So he said, "Excuse me." And I said, "Give her book in the hand, I'll speak," and she can still hear it. And this is how I trained him. The day was like this, and in the end, they learned how to distribute books, and then I could send them with some senior devotee who was Bhakta Greg, who was like 3 months in the movement. And so this was the training. So for me, this was more nectar than if I distribute 10,000 books, because these devotees actually engaged themselves in devotional service, in the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya. So recruit or perish. So I didn't say the best story. Anyways, so the most funny story. Of course, these are the funny stories now. But because by distributing books, you're not only saving conditioned souls, but you're saving yourselves. And this was this very famous devotee, Gauri Devi Dasi. She was living in Los Angeles. She joined 1969, I think, is written there. And she, in the 1984, she got a cancer. And this was a terminal cancer. She would die. She died, Gauri Devi Dasi, Gauri. And she was actually, she joined and she distributed books, I think 15, 16 years. She was, she was one of those ISKCON book distribution tape ministry that they order. And some devotees told me in LA also. And this tape was very revealing. This was the tape when she was speaking at her last moments of her life. And she said, one thing, first of all, I remember this now, she said, I love all of you devotees, surrounded here, but many of you are not serious. This is so heavy. I was like, oh my God, she loves everybody, but she said, many of you are not serious. You have to be more serious. So this is for me. Yes, Prabhupada loves us all, and Krishna loves us all, and devotees loves us, Guru, but we have to be more serious. You can always be more serious. You can always chant your rounds better. You can always wake up 10 minutes earlier. You can always read 2 pages more. You can always be engaged in more service. We have to become more serious. This is number 1. And number 2, what she said, this is the punchline for this. She said, I was distributing books for so many years, and I was thinking, I'm saving the conditioned souls. But now I realize I was saving myself. This was like, and this is, again, my guideline for so many. Okay, I can distribute books and save, but for me it's more, you can say nectar, this is my nature also, to engage others, people who don't know, or new people, or bring people to Krishna consciousness and engage them in preaching service, because this will save not only the conditioned souls, but themselves also. So recruit or perish is my humble contribution to your vision. And let me see what else. What for the last almost 9, all the obstacles in my life, difficulties in my life is like anybody else. Everybody has so many difficulties, so many obstacles. When you look back, you think, oh my God, what have I done? What have I survived in Krishna consciousness? And all these things we should not lament. We should just go forward, there was a story of a samurai, the codes of samurais. They're like actual codes of samurais. I read one. And one of them, I follow even now, he said, if it's raining, if samurai is in a mission to kill somebody, if it's raining, samurai never goes under the awning, to hide from the rain, because this will distract him. He says, samurai goes straight focused without considering material considerations. Because if you go hiding from rain here, hiding from rain, your focus will finish. And then when you have to fight, you will not be so focused. So, as this Rohini Sutta Prabhu said, no material consideration, no material obstacle can stop your devotional service. And we should just go with our raised head very proudly, that we are actually disciples of such a great devotees like Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and disciples of Prabhupada, and whole Guru Parampara. Prabhupada said the devotees are never proud, but they're proud only one thing. I have such a great master. This is our pride. So, for the end, the Ramananda Gopal favorite story. That was also early days. I was in India, Vrindavan, and one devotee from Poland came. He was a book distributor. And he, I said, wow, book distributor, let's go distribute. I was distributing books at that time at Nehru Place. Anybody knows in Delhi? Nehru Place is a computer at that time hub of Delhi. And I did really well. Sometimes I could do many Gitas. I did only Gitas. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. And then, but I wanted to distribute books in the West. And I thought, I have to save the West, whatever, And I started lamenting to him. And he looked at me and he said, this famous sentence, don't cry like Shudra. I was shocked, He said, if Krishna wants you to go there, he will send you there. Don't cry like Shudra. Whoa, I was like trembling, you know. But I always remember, anytime I had something lamenting, you know, oh, don't cry like Shudra, man. Don't cry like Shudra. Shudra, in a sense, you know, we don't offend any caste, any varnas or anything. But Shudra, in this sense, in his world, represents somebody who is not educated, who is not serious. You know, this is not in the sense of varna and ashram. Just to use the connotation, what this means. So this is the message. Don't cry like Shudras. Preach, distribute books, be enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness. You know, we have a Maharaj here, Bhakti Raghava Maharaj, who lost his leg. Imagine, he could have cried, oh, I joined ISKCON and all. No, he's very fired up. He's going Harinams, he's going book distribution. Where was the last time we had on Ratha Yatra? He's going Ratha Yatra with his crutches. Not crying like Shudra, you know. No material obstacles can stop our Krishna consciousness. With that words, I thank you very much for your attention. This was the 2-day, whatever, speech, or how you want to call it nowadays, seminar, or whatever, about these things, what I had to say. So I thank you very much. Prabhu, would you like to add something? Okay. Hare Krishna.
Oops.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. No, I was, because you were mentioning so many personalities that immediately I could see them in my mind's eye, remember them.
Your peers.
And yeah, they were all exemplary, especially this point that you made about taking responsibility and taking risk for Krishna. Not taking Krishna consciousness as some nice yoga process for my well-being, that I can be peaceful and happy, but rather taking it as a service, a devotional service. That's why Prabhupada gave the word devotional service. We're meant to serve, we're not meant to enjoy. The mentality of taking some process, some practice to feel good about ourselves, that's not our mood. Prabhupada was teaching by rendering service, and service especially in that sense you were saying of risking, putting ourselves, making the extra endeavor, not just little endeavor, but giving everything, giving all our life and soul. And I was thinking about the devotee. You didn't mention Jayananda Prabhu, because when we joined, myself and Bhakta Greg, Guru Kripa, Jayananda Prabhu was there. He became president for some time, but he preferred to do menial services. And he was also an example. He wasn't a big book distributor, but he would do, his motto was, any service is equally good. We were happy to do any service. Sometimes he was distributing books, sometimes he was doing Harinam, sometimes he was taking the garbage out, sometimes he was fixing the cars, sometimes he was taking the Sankirtan party out. So he saw all services as equal, as all services as transcendental, all services. But his main thought was, we have to do this for Prabhupada. We have to do whatever's necessary, do the needful to carry on Prabhupada's movement. So he was also, talking about inspiration, I had the good fortune that he was the first devotee I saw when I walked in the temple, and I can just tell quick stuff. The temple room was the San Francisco temple room. It was about half this size, and he was all alone in the temple room, and he was chanting and praying to Prabhupada, talking. He was talking to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was a picture of Prabhupada on the Vyasa sign, and he was talking and praying to Prabhupada, please, Prabhupada, help me take away all these obstacles, these desires in my mind and contaminations in my mind, and let me engage in your service. And I was just like, wow, it was completely shocking personality. Because he was talking to a picture, praying intensely to a picture. And I thought, oh, this is really special, really transcendental. And then he took me to my house to pick up my things and talk to my father and mother and explain. And they didn't understand anything, and they were disturbed, but he was so charming. He was so, because of his pure devotion for Prabhupada, that they were just bewildered. And anyway, there's so many devotees in those days. I had the fortune to be Tamal Krishna Maharaj's personal servant. I was on the Radha Damodar party, and then that year, famous year, 76, when he went and Prabhupada told him to go to China, and then everything changed. I was his personal servant. I was there in the room when he came back after Prabhupada. All the Tamil presidents were on his case, and Prabhupada said, "No, I take away all your service, and now you otherwise just go to China." And he came back in the room, and he was devastated. But because the Radha Damodar party was going so well, we were 144 brahmacharis, I think, at the time, traveling all over in 6 buses and many, many vans. Each bus had a like satellites going around of vans. I had one van party, and that's anyway. I'll speak more about that tomorrow. I think tomorrow, or the next day morning, about that missionary spirit. This is not a movement for being good, like they say in America. If you push people with books in America, they say, "I'm good." That's they all say the same thing. Said, "I'm good." And they told me devotee yesterday that in Denmark, same thing. "I'm good. Everything's fine." No, this is a. We're not trying to feel good. We're trying to help and save the human society, the whole world. That's Prabhupada's mission. So, if we're followers of Srila Prabhupada, we should. As I was very inspired by your talk, that spirit of missionary spirit. So we'll talk more about it tomorrow.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Sacinandana Prabhu ki jai.
Jai Prabhu
O Premanandi Haribo.
I don't know, he's quoted, Krishna Maharaj gave quoted to everybody. And he distributed only 28 books, and he's supposed to do 40 or something like this. And he came 8 o'clock in the evening, snowing. And Krishna Maharaj opened the bus. He said, "How did you do?" He said, "I did 28. Go back and do 12 more." They closed the door. 8 o'clock in the evening, he said, snowing. And he has to go find to distribute 12 more books. Hare Krishna.